I wanted to mention a couple of other ideas without crowding out the original video. I mentioned that your body has a number of ways of ensuring that your goals align with it. Now, obviously, as long as you interrupt what you were doing before to enjoy a good meal and go back to what you're doing, everything's fine. But if you neglect the system will let you know. Now, obviously, that's a fairly extreme example, but the same thing happens everywhere else on a more subtle level. For example, you're watching this video right now. You could be watching cat videos, you could be watching videos from dark matter, you could be watching videos of people getting kicked in the junk or things blowing up. But you're not watching those videos. You're willing to suffer through my fairly monotonous voice and my lack of video making skills in my fucking bedroom, as opposed to someone with a green screen and a production team and everything else. And what that tells me is that these videos and these subjects must be interesting to you on some level. They must be satiating some part of your palate that doesn't normally get stimulation. What that also tells me is that there's a limitation and a barrier on your ability to gain satisfaction from those other kinds of videos. It's saying that, you know, I have a sweet tooth, I like sweet things, but when you're in the mood for salty, sweet doesn't cut it, does it? You know, when we say that someone has a refined palate or a sophisticated sense of humor, what we're generally saying is that they have a harder access or a more fleeting access to the kinds of entertainment and happiness that are available to other people.
Captain, you got it.
And if they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
Oh, no, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
You know, the idea that we would use refinement and sophistication as a reason for looking down on someone else's more simple sensibilities is really just a case of one-upmanship. We want a reason and a justification for why we have a more limited and fleeting access to happy. And Mark Maron has some really great discussions on this.
I'm just saying a lot of people are on medicine they don't need to be because, let's be honest, folks, it isn't easy for anyone. And I think in most cases, the only difference between depression and disappointment is your level of commitment. And to be honest with you, really, in the day and age we live in now, if someone comes up to you and says, I think you might be clinically depressed, the proper response is, thank you very much. That means I'm awake. Is there any indication we shouldn't be depressed? Are you living on the same planet that I am? Do you ever think that depression might be the reasonable human response to the crap we're going through as a species, meant to propel us? Meant to propel us into the next evolutionary step, or at least into taking some different course of action so we might survive? Do you ever think that maybe it's the happy people that are really screwed up in the head? Where's that spin on the situation? Maybe it's those guys. Hey, how you doing? I don't know, I feel great again. Really? Well, that's creepy and weird. Maybe you should be on medication. Clearly you're self-centered, delusional, narcissistic. I don't know, but you're draining me with your happy. Could you move along? Because I'm doing the big work. Creating a planet that functions properly in my brain.
The only justification that a Christian or other theist can have as to why God wouldn't have pursued a sense of nirvana prior to creating the universe would be this kind of argument. It would be an appeal to the idea that God wanted to do something more. Now note that this is exactly identical to the argument that I have a sophisticated palate or a refined sense of humor. It's an acknowledgement of your own limitation. It's an acknowledgement of some barrier being in the way of you achieving some other goal. Now, in the case of Mark Maron, he's talking about a world that is already shit. He's talking about how it takes someone of high intellectual capacity to imagine a functioning world in their head so that they can overcome the adversity that they see and actually realize what they see in their head to make the world a better place. In the case of God, he's the one who made it this way. As Epicurus pointed out a long time ago, he has culpability in the state of the universe as it is. And he had two very clear options before getting to this point. He could have A, not created the universe, or B, not created a shitty universe. Either one would have been a perfectly viable option. Now, in terms of the obstacle-goal relationship, that has two implications. One is those obstacles don't need to exist, and two, those goals don't need to exist. So That, aside from all the other problems that plague the ontological argument, is just another reason why the ontological argument is stupid.